Today, we're going to be dealing with an Opposition Day motion that unfortunately is heavily seeped in partisan politics. Its objective is to play games with what is an enormously serious issue, and that is foreign interference. Today, the President of China and the President of Russia are meeting in Moscow. Let's be clear, the objective of autocrats is to undermine our democracy. It is an attack on every single parliamentarian, and it is an attack on the very process by which we govern ourselves. And we all have to comport ourselves accordingly, meeting this moment with deep seriousness. I will say that first at the onset, that when I was the public safety critic back when I was in opposition, Justice Iacobucci and Justice O'Connor had critical recommendations regarding our security and intelligence infrastructure. One of them was the establishment of an independent committee of parliamentarians that could look into every aspect of government. That recommendation was ignored and not acted upon. It was a recommendation that we did act upon precisely so that in situations like this, every single parliamentarian has the opportunity to see into every corner of government. Secondly, in this, there were recommendations at that point in time of having a body of national security and intelligence experts that would be an oversight mechanism to provide a panel of experts that are independent, that can oversee our security and intelligence operations. We also put that into place, something that was a recommendation the Conservatives did not act upon. In this instance, we have put forward the opportunity for the national director of both the 2019 and 2021 campaigns to appear to answer questions. They are the ones that receive briefings. They are the ones that have answers. The Conservatives have declined to do the same, to offer their national directors for that period of time, who would have also received those briefings. We have further appointed a special rapporteur in the person of David Johnson, an eminent Canadian who is well respected, who is going to be taking a look at all of the circumstances in this at the same time as the National Security Committee of Parliamentarians, NSICOP, is looking at this. This is an issue with which I think all parliamentarians have to be deeply concerned. We absolutely must do everything to ensure that we adjudicate ourselves cautiously through this process, to resist the urge for partisan advantage, and instead focus on national security considerations.
Why are the Liberals so against the idea of Katie Telford answering questions at committee?
Well, I think the principle here is that the individuals with information, the individuals who would have received the briefings and be able to answer the questions are the ones that should appear. Those individuals who received the briefings were the national campaign directors of the 2019 and 2021 elections. In both instances, I think it's very important to note that there have been independent reviews of those elections and that they have been determined to have been conducted fair and democratically, that we still, of course, face pressure from foreign interference and have to make sure we repel that. But the people that receive the briefings, I would think, are the ones that are the most pertinent. And what I would ask in return is why that offer to hear those individuals has not been accepted, and why the Conservatives in turn haven't offered as well to have their national campaign directors present.
In today's motion, aren't they calling for the national directors of all parties to appear at committee in today's motion?
Well, I think that the issue, we certainly support that. I think that the issue has been in committee that there's been great opposition to two things. One, that this not just be about China. There are many different nations that are trying to interfere in Canadian democracy, and Russia certainly being on that list as well, that is conspicuously absent, and that the Conservatives have been unwilling to add to the list. And that at various points in time, the Conservatives have refused to put forward individuals, and if they're willing to do that, that's a positive development. But we believe that the committee should be able to hear from all individuals who would have received those briefings, and those would have been the individuals responsible for the
Can you clarify? Sorry, are you saying Katie Telford did not receive these briefings?
No, what I'm saying is the appropriate people to have before committee were the individuals who received the briefings in 2019 and 2021.
I'm asking you, did Katie Telford receive those same briefings?
I don't have information in terms of
for the people who were briefed to appear, then it would seem she should appear.
Yeah. No, look, I think that the thing that we are absolutely committed to in this process is ensuring that parliamentarians, first and foremost, get access to any and all documentation and information. That happens with NSICOP. The second thing that we've offered is the individuals who would have been responsible for the campaigns at that time. I understand that.
What you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to engage with what I'm asking, which is, I assume Katie Telford, as the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, was also briefed. So if people who are briefed should testify, why shouldn't she testify?
Look, I think that, to my knowledge, the individuals that received briefings were responsible for the 2019 and 2021 campaigns. There's a briefing that would have occurred not only for the Liberal Party, but for the other parties as well.
I guess you don't have an answer.
So do you not think that Katie Telford has anything to offer this committee, that she has no knowledge that could be helpful?
I think that the move to have the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff is a political move. It is not a move aimed at trying to get answers or try to get information. It's a opportunity for the Conservatives to play politics. And what I'm saying is that as a first principle, let's step back and acknowledge that any form of foreign interference is an attack against democracy. It's an attack against every person is in this place. I am not aware of a member of Parliament who has not dedicated their life to Canadian democracy. They would not be in this place if that was not the case. I'm sure it's as sure of my adversaries as it's sure of me. And that if we are going to broach the issue of foreign interference, dialing back partisanship, I would say, is key. Their obsession and particular focus on the Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister, I think, is evidence of a partisan interest and not an interest in information. If there is, well, it's partisan. It's partisan because they haven't even begun to hear from other witnesses in terms of what exactly took place and what was in terms of the individuals that I mentioned who were responsible for getting those briefings in 2019 and in 2021. So the point is that there is we have a special rapporteur who is given oversight of all of this. We have the National Committee of Parliamentarians, which is given an opportunity to take a look into every corner of this. We have an offer to have the people who received the briefings in 2019 and 2021 to appear. And I think that's a very good starting point for a conversation. And what it seems to me is, rather than having it, and let's take a look at the committee work that was done on Russian interference, that there was really great cooperation from all parties to engage and have dialogue and to find solutions about how we could deal with foreign interference as it pertained to Russia. It seems to me there's an exuberance here for partisan advantage, and that, it seems to be the lead. And I would think that the most important thing to do right now is for us to calmly take a look at facts and information. And what I think is occurring is there is a vested partisan interest. You will see it play out in question period.
For your party as well as the government,
I would submit to you that every single parliamentarian who has worked their entire lives to get to this place has done so in defense of Canadian democracy. I would submit to you that my interest when it comes to foreign interference into the democracy of this nation is paramount, and I put nothing ahead of that. I would suggest, and I would hope, that every parliamentarian holds that in their heart. And so I have a deep concern. I have a deep concern right now, as we have both the president of China and the president of Russia meeting in Moscow now, currently, that the temperature and the way that we engage one another as parliamentarians is exceptionally important. And the way in which we either use or don't use partisanship when dealing with something as fundamental as Canadian democracy is exceptionally important, and this matter must be taken seriously.
Why are you referencing this meeting in Russia today? Why is that relevant to the discussion we're having about?
Well, I think it brings us back to the core point, which is that democracies everywhere are under threat, that autocracies are looking to weaken the fabric of democracy. And I think that when we step back and we consider the objective of autocracies, which is to undermine democracies, it is essential for us to comport ourselves in a way that reduces rancor, that reduces partisanship, that focuses on answers. Surely no person no member of Parliament is suggesting that any other member of Parliament is anything other than loyal to their democracy. But what we need to do is to conduct our conversations on this subject in a way that is restrained and that is reducing partisanship. That has not been the case. There has been an amplification of it, and that is toxic.
If you lose the vote, will Katie Telford testify?
I think that what we are trying to do, as we have done through every stage of this minority parliament, as I have tried to do through every stage of being House Leader, is to work with the other parties. We recognize we're in a minority position. We make our position known. We articulate why we think what we are offering is the best position and the most appropriate position, and we continue that process of working together and negotiating. Well, I don't.
The vote in upholding democracy, will you?
Let me look. I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals. I've been in front of this microphone and others many, many times where I was asked hypothetical situations. I've got enough concerns in my life with what is immediately in front of me rather than in guessing speculation in the future. But what I will say is this, that we have committed every step of the way to work with parliamentarians to ensure they see any and all information. We have committed to try to create a process that is independent, that is serious, and make sure that we reduce partisanship and that we protect our institutions and protect our democracy. And it is my hope that other opposition parties comport themselves in the same way. This is the last question because I have to get to QP.
Are you going to make it a confidence matter?
I think that, look, we are having ongoing discussions and dialogue. I think that it's not helpful to jump to the end of a process when we're still having conversations in a contemporaneous circumstance. We will continue to work on those. I understand the temptation to go to the end of the process when we're still in the middle of it. My mind is squarely focused on finding answers right now. I'm saying that we're in a situation right now where we continue to have these discussions. Thank you very much. I apologize. QP is starting.